I don't think many of us will ever be able to justify why a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine should exist, because in reality, it shouldn't, but it does. And that's kind of incredible. This story is so much more than a multiversal mixtape. It's really about the love of legacy, a film that implements some unorthodox metas and critically never makes it a point to ask itself why during that journey. The why is left up to interpretation, and for me, it reads as the most meta movie in Marvel's history was greenlit after a lifetime of pain and improbable circumstance. Insane, to put it mildly. Circumstance has played its role in aligning these two heroes and their actors from nearly 33 combined years of lessons learned in time. It's a story about pride and legacy and the unpredictability of pain, how it shapes us. Its meta is just what it is and by whom it's from, and from that, it makes sense. It's the story of Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson and Hugh Jackman as James Howlett, Deadpool and the Wolverine. From test footage that leaked online to actors that wouldn't quit, there's only ever been one Wolverine and one Deadpool. And for both of these truths, whether due to pure circumstance or some other intervention, it is what they create together that, when put together, grabs you by the wrist and directs you where to go. All in the name of sincerity.
Literally the moment I saw Deadpool 1. That's where everything came flashing to me. That's where I saw 48 Hours, Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy. I saw Midnight Run. I saw The Odd Couple. I saw Planes, Trains, Automobiles. I was like, these two characters have to be together. And I had literally announced my retirement 3 days before.
Yeah. Because what started as an idea on the offhand many years ago quickly became a collision course on the big screen, ending in cinematic harmony for two characters of the same fabric, in canon and out. If passion is the one word meant to define this brotherhood, then let it be said how a story about pride and legacy and unpredictability became one of the most self-loving, authentic, and intuitive comic book films we've ever seen. Deadpool and Wolverine does not need to be flawless because in its own way, it is perfect. And for what it's worth, for me, that makes it worth all the while.
Water.
In all the different ways it idolizes its titular characters, Deadpool and Wolverine is simply a celebration of the idea of superheroes, but it's not Logan, and that's a good thing. Conversely to the 2017 Juggernaut, this movie runs on embracing its odd, obnoxious, in and out of the tone of Deadpool and a twisted sense of context all throughout. It delivers its tributes to the canon and the source material as if it was written by them, and stands as the ultimate highlight to the end of a culturally significant trilogy. It reads much more like a graphic novel with how it hops between physical and subtextual spaces, giving Deadpool his narrative purpose and both of these heroes their resolutions. Within every leg of this multiversal journey, it is glaringly apparent how much Ryan Reynolds loves Deadpool, and how a Marvel-approved budget finally affords him the scope and luxury to take this character into the big pond. The energy on screen when finding the humor, violence, and creativity in everything Deadpool can interact with is noticeably more direct here this time, and it's all because Deadpool, from the team to the actor to the character, is just having fun having fun. Deadpool 1 is the more traditional 3-act story, but this here is the more subjectively interesting when it just does what it does, and its meta-analysis is for the most part excellent. It's more than how Deadpool bounces off Wolverine, but precisely how Wade is God's perfect idiot. In nearly every scenario, Deadpool stretches and challenges the cadence of this type of story, and the emotional core you'd want to end a trilogy on is there for when the time is right. The intuitiveness of Wade's quips, sarcasm and violence, and nihilistic indifference falls in line with what Deadpool should be at his best, and where Jackman's seasoned approach to Logan defines the counterweight of absurdism that we as fans have always imagined. I always felt there was something missing from Deadpool 2 after rewatching it recently. The humor dragged a little thin at times, like it got too caught up in looking at its own reflection, and that feedback loop just felt formulaic enough to lose some of the magic. But here at Deadpool 3, that redundancy is prevented by truly expert improvisational skills and an utterly insane commitment to the bit, whatever it may be, and it works really well. I didn't feel desensitized to the humor, the fight scenes were brutal and flashy and layered with Easter eggs, and the legacy of Deadpool and Wolverine is kept endemic to the emotions of the subplot. So for anyone who says there was not enough heart, I dare you to look again. Specifically at the ending, where these two heroes join together to save the world, and I'll get to that in a minute. For a multiversal movie in this day and age, it stands out against the likes of No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, both of which I have recommended to my audience, but this is the obnoxious imagination that was missing for the most part from Spider-Man, and the impact of character beats that were too thin in Doctor Strange. The psychotic pursuit of the absurd has almost zero downside on the quality of this film, and it sold the hell out of the journey it takes. And in my eyes, Deadpool and Wolverine is all the better because of that. This is a trilogy that sticks the landing, has fun doing so, and reminds you every minute just how impactful and awesome these characters are. You really can't ask for much more from a Deadpool story. The greatest strengths of these Deadpool films is their ability to provide context. Soundtrack choices and satirical commentary combined with cameos and excessive violence. All of these are the contexts that make Deadpool and Wolverine's meta feel engaging, even on my third viewing. The fourth wall, the TVA, and all of that implies this Deadpool has a specific philosophy in both script and creativity that is the fulcrum of which this angle of the multiverse pivots from the norm. From its ideas and practice to its actors and context, this is a three-dimensional approach to a multiversal movie, and it feels uniquely positioned for such an achievement because, of course, it's these two heroes carrying the story. It seeks out some 2000s era stereotypes in an effort to reimagine them, and the indifference shown to objectively obnoxious material is the whole game. Deadpool and Wolverine, from philosophy to execution, is an insane film, and maybe why so many people online just aren't having the same reaction to it that I am. There are criticisms, of course. The multiversal conditions and narrative connections could have been tied more directly to the future plans of the MCU. Maybe. But anchoring your experience with this film away from the anchor being and the idiot is where the meta for many will likely disconnect. Deadpool 3 is the most authentic depiction of Deadpool in any movie so far, and it very clearly intends to be that way all the way through to the final credits. At times, it even feels like an exercise of intuition on the Infinite stage, and not simply exposition. This is a clear trust between Marvel and Deadpool, which frees Ryan Reynolds to tell the story he wants to tell, and thus we get a Deadpool film that completely understands how to enjoy its past, respect its present, and reimagine the future as he sees fit. To commit to this insanity intentionally is why there's a $1 billion opening week, if you have the balls to do it. Thankfully, both Deadpool and Wolverine have plenty of those to go around.
Shy right the f*** away from any of that talk of a spin-off or that sort of thing. It'd be fantastic to do my dream would be to do an absolutely 100% faithful Deadpool adaptation, straight out of the comic books, breaking the fourth wall, pop culture references, the whole 9 yards, knows he's in a movie, knows he's in a comic book.
Right.
You know, that kind of vibe, that would be a dream come true for me.
Approaching Deadpool and Wolverine as if it's in the same vein as an Endgame or a Winter Soldier is a misunderstanding of where this film is coming from. While beloved by us, the fans, Deadpool and Wolverine have always been asterisks in the superhero stories, and their characters have made it a point to keep that trait front and center. The soul of Deadpool and Wolverine is Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's the attitude I wanted to see regardless of the plot of this film. You'll never matter is a phrase, an idea that's seasoned liberally throughout the 2-hour runtime, and its job is to bind these two heroes together thematically by inviting their past back into frame to be critiqued, to allow this new collaboration to create life. Logan is a character that's always been cursed by pain. It's the derivative of his legacy and his moral compass, to closure, to acceptance, and to silence. Wade, on the other hand, is simply the audience. He's loud and reactionary, using the medium of comics and movies to parody all of their tropes. At his center, he wears the mask to hide himself from everyone, even those in on the joke. He's like the anti-Rorschach, test and all, and combining him with Wolverine is where the rubber meets the road, Honda Odyssey and all. We see the soul of Deadpool and Wolverine in the post-credit scenes as well, where Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds interview on the weight of expectations, reflecting on their journey so far in the spandex. How unlikely those circumstances would have to be for something like this to be made today. to validate their passion and commitment to these heroes. When Deadpool and Wolverine commits to the theme of self-acceptance, it's a commentary on the characters, sure, but it's also a commentary about the actors who got us here, and now they've become one with the narrative as well. For two heroes who were always the wrong guy, they finally found their purpose and accepted a legacy beyond themselves because of their passion, and now get to share that history as one idea. Like many during the Infinity Saga, I am grateful I got to enjoy these two actors breathe life into this world, into these characters, because the amount of justice they've brought to the comic book medium and comic books themselves is much more than they'll ever make in residuals. And finally, I just want to say that this version of Deadpool is the purest on-screen portrayal yet, and thank you to Sean Levy for allowing Deadpool to keep his mask on for 99% of the ride. The film is colorful and practical, making the occasional CGI a lot less jarring than other Marvel installments. It's clear that this collaboration was made from a place of sincere passion by everyone involved. The tone never felt meddled with, and the vibe of the journey was consistent. The jokes were in bounds, and the action was creative without feeling like action figures just being smashed together. But even with all of that, it was the personal story of Wade's experience in the Void and Wolverine's spiritual redemption that I walk away with most. And that all ties into the end of the film, like I mentioned earlier, that brought this experience full circle. Because it's not directly said on screen, but this is the moment where Deadpool and Wolverine begin to relive the spaces that defined their centers as characters. When Logan looks at Wade, we see Wade's memories, and then Wade looks at Logan and we see his. And that's the scene where Deadpool and Wolverine finally come to understand each other. This is, in my eyes, the real payoff of the movie. For two men burdened with so much dissociation, finally seeing the other in a way that only they would be able to communicate. It's not just great respect for the characters, but it's a killer ending to the equivalent of a 2000s blockbuster. It pays off the narrative, the canon, and the respect between the actors, and that's why I say that this movie is perfect. Less subtextually, Wade actually earns his non-meta ending for Deadpool by choosing Vanessa, and Logan earns his meta ending for Wolverine by accepting his significance to our faces while wearing his yellow suit. He says it as well. He's not just an X-Man, but the X-Man. Watching this film reminded me why I've spent 25 years watching these Marvel movies, because this is one of those experiences that's just fun to watch, rewatch, and discuss like this. Figuratively, Deadpool and Wolverine are two strands of the same DNA. Revered histories, unpredictable trajectories, and characters built on existential senses of loss, now connected through their passion and circumstance, metatextually, of course, but literally. Embracing all of Marvel's past and all of its present in each hero's own specific context is the best fourth wall break a Deadpool movie has had to date. Deadpool and Wolverine exists in the context of all in which it lives and what came before it. Coconuts. And as always, thanks for watching.